Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, gamers and lore hunters. Welcome to another electrifying episode of The Critics. I'm your host, Rudigs, and today we've got a special treat for you. Joining me is none other than the enigmatic, chaotic conjurer himself, the maker of chaos. Today, we're diving deep into the dark, twisted roots of Elden Ring's latest DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. So get ready for a roller coaster of revelations, riveting reviews, and rampant rambling. So buckle up because this episode is going to be a wild ride through the lands between like you've never experienced before. So let's get into it. I'm joined by Maker of Chaos, one of our only people in the community to be able to have the skill to be able to complete this DLC and actually, get it together and get through it. So kudos to you, sir. Let's get into what George R. Martin and From Software have joined together to create. So, a basic synopsis, we are going to be discussing and reviewing the Shadow Realm, the Shadow of the Erdtree. So, this is separate from the Lands Between and the main game. Now, completing this changes none of the endings of the main game, and it was actually said that George R. Martin had written about the Shadowlands in the very first submission for Elden Ring. So this is all canon. This is all part of the original lore script. So I just wanted to make those things apparent before we get into this. And the major question we are going to be answering today is, can a DLC win Game of the Year? And so at the end of it, we are going to ask that question. And after our review and all that nostalgia's flying, we're going to see if we can give a clear answer. So I'm going to start off by saying and asking Maker about the setting and the scene. So let's kick off with the setting. How did the hauntingly beautiful landscapes of Shadow of the Erdtree compare to the original games? And my follow-up is, did you feel like you were exploring a new world of a darker extension of the familiar lands between? Because that was kind of my feeling of it. But I want to get your aspects on what you thought of the setting.
To me, I mean, it was almost like it was like a alternate area to me, like or like a because each of the areas to me felt unique to the original game. It almost didn't feel like it was attached to it, but almost like another dimension more so.
Yeah,
Right?
I could definitely feel that. Like, this could have been Elden Ring 2.
Visually, it was super impressive from like the Cerulean Coast to the like the beautiful like lush green is it the Rua ruins and stuff like that. It was very I loved exploring like to the tops of like the mountain top to uh you know through the what was it, the Shadow Castle. It was great. Oh, how did I forget the is it like the Chaos Woods. What was it
The
called?
Abyssal
Down
Forest.
Bissell Forest. That's it. Love the atmosphere on that area, more so than probably anything that I liked in the base Elden Ring.
I almost preferred thinking that those creatures of the Erdtree, those monsters, were undefeatable because once I figured out you could simply just parry and then stab them, they became a little bit gimmicky. But I liked almost the fact that they were unstoppable and they could just kill you as soon as they grabbed you. The setting of that
And
forest was definitely deep and dark, and the boss waiting for you at the end of the abyssal just is the icing on the cake. Honestly, that whole setting and theme, it was an evolution of what I like to think a dungeon would be.
oh yeah,
And they really hit the pinnacle of it. It's an area, and inside Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, you actually had 15 distinct areas with their own personality, their own bosses at the end of it, and it's almost amazing to think about that you get this all in one DLC package. Some games don't even reach that amount of level of detail and experience and content within it. So you got to give it kudos to those. I mean, as soon as you walk into Shadow of the Erdtree, you see a veil over the tree. You automatically know you're entering this dark realm because everything has tombstones littered all over the place. The grass is longer and unkempt, and essentially, like you said, there's a dark feeling to it that echoes throughout each one of the placements, each one of the areas that you're going into. So the setting, I think, did a great job of translating the fact that you were in a shadow of the lands between.
Yep,
Yeah, I would
100%.
definitely agree with that. Now I wanted to ask you, and you already answered it in your first question, so I'm gonna ask you to leave out the abyssal woods. But is there another environment that spoke to you that was, a bit epic in scenery that really evolved what you thought From Software was doing here?
Ooh. Um, I kind of like the ruins area, the one near Rosalina. Um, just the green, like foresty, almost like it felt like an ancient ruin that had kind of been there for a long time, where like the foliage had grown over and stuff like that. I love the idea behind that, and I really liked that area. And if I were to like give like maybe a honorable mentions, the Cerulean Coast is beautiful. Just absolutely love the visuals on the like the blue flowers. Just seeing all that on the coast was really beautiful.
Absolutely. Um, that part of the map, it just sets itself from any other part, even in the lands between. There are those beautiful like flowers that litter everywhere, but it just has this darkness overtone to it. I mean, you're fighting bosses in there that all have this ghost flame ability, this death curse. So everything has that dark tone to it. But Cerulean Coast is definitely a great honorable mention. My honorable mention would have to be the Dragon Peak,
Oh yeah.
or I'm even going to say the Finger Ruins. Like that was
Ooh.
creepy riding through to reach each one of the three altars. Just having
Yeah.
all the hands and the fingers sticking out. I almost got goosebumps riding through there. And again, it felt like nothing else they had put in Elden Ring, the main game. It just felt evolved from the lore of the fingers, which is funny to say. All right, let's move on to the next one. I want to jump into story and lore. So, Elden Ring is a game which hides its story and it hides its lore. Their cutscenes are few and far between, and the conversation with the NPCs are really the aspects of where you grab this story. I wanted to ask you, did you find the new characters and the plot lines compelling? And was there one of these plot lines that stood out to you? Because it's a relationship storyline between you and the NPCs at the end of the day.
For me, I mean, I really loved the Manus Meter quest line with who was it? It was I can't remember their name off the top of where the finger person um that was trying
It was
to.
on Thoile.
No, not Tholier. I did like Tholier's quest line.
Was
Uh,
Saint Trinity?
no, Trina, Saint Trina.
Yeah, it was Saint
No,
Trina.
no,
That was Thoile's. You're
yeah,
talking about the fingers with
Y-
who had the finger
yeah,
quest line? You mean the knight, the Black Knight, the
yeah,
Dark
yeah.
Knight?
The Black Knight and
Oh, what was his
the
name?
uh,
Jadir?
no, I don't think that was right. I could.
Damn,
I'll
we
pull it
are
up real
not good.
quick.
But yes, that plot line definitely had haunting feel. It brought you back to this sort of bloodline of what the Elden Ring royalty was. It had that connection to the main game. The
Um,
guy sitting on the throne, Amir, wasn't it?
Amir. Yeah, it was Amir. Amir. That's it.
Yeah, it just
How
came to
did I
me.
forget that? Yeah, Emir.
And who was his buddy?
Uh, I can't think off the top of my head, but I really liked that whole quest line, specifically um, in regards to that, like while you're doing the quest line, there's a specific part where you're looking for Emir, and Emir's over by the graveyard, and it's mourning their lost child, and it's the finger, like the because it's trying to perfect the fingers, and the only way to do that is um, to kind of lure you into to finding the mother of fingers, the boss fight. And I like that whole setup. Yeah, Count Emir and the Dark Knight's Jolin. Jolin is the knight.
Jolin, I see. I was saying Jadir, but yeah, absolutely thrilling, and the weapons, the armor. I was playing my new game plus run of Elden Ring yesterday, and I threw on Jamir's armor, and
Mhm.
it's just so badass looking, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it's cool. Great storyline, great little adventure and side quest, and all of it optional, right? If you wanted to go through the main game, you don't even have to interact with them, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah, you mentioned the Tholier and Saint Trina. I really like that quest line as well. Searching they're on their search for Saint Trina, and the way that you speak with Saint Trina and have to basically die 5 times to hear her message. I think that's really a really cool method of you know doing a quest line.
I didn't quite I wish they had, given you a bit more like background. Like, why did you have to die 5 times? I could understand
Um,
dying once, but like to die multiple times, it was just kind of like, okay. I guess I'll just do it because this is
um,
what the guide says. But
Well, you're
there was,
imbibing like the nectar from Saint Trina, and that's what's causing you to. It's kind of like how Tholier is like put into like a deep sleep because of they also imbibed from it.
so you have to do it multiple times to be able to reach transcendence, I
Yeah,
guess, and only people who can
yeah.
revive themselves can do it. But yeah, absolutely, it was a cool experience to have that side quest. And I would definitely say another one that sticks out that gets the most honorable mention, at least from me, is Bale, right? That journey
Oh,
through the land of the dragons, a pinnacle
y-
part of Elden Ring, to finally, see Igor, right? Or
yeah.
Egon, that
Egon,
was his
yeah,
name.
yeah,
He wanted to get this, right? He had his revenge plotted in front of him. He just didn't have the ability to take down this dragon. And you're with him along the way, and after each dragon fight, he's there and he's cheering you on, and even gives you his spirit to fight the most strengthened dragon, and begs for him to be summoned in the fight.
yeah.
And honestly, it's just such a strong story that they told in a side quest. And again, like, putting this all optional crazy. And this story obviously hit a nerve with the community. I mean,
Oh
Bale
yeah.
and his dragon companion. I mean, that story hit hard with the internet.
Like I just love seeing the TikToks with his because he's very into character like into that character where he's screaming he's like Bale vileful Bale. It's really funny and it's good. I like it.
Yeah, I think I heard a read a story that the actor himself spent a whole day recording all these lines until he got it perfect because he really didn't think that it was going to pick up as much as he did because of the lines. But yeah, it's stuck, it's iconic, and it's one of those cool little side quests. Um, but yeah, I wanted to say, was there any revelations that caught you off guard? Was there a quest that you didn't feel good about the ending with these interactions with the NPCs?
Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of them I feel like are really sad. That I guess I didn't quite like as much as I wanted to. Like the Jolin part of their quest with their sister that you meet down underneath in the finger kind of shrine. Um, and then I because like to get the sword, you have to give her the what is it, the eyes of Twilight or something.
Right.
And
The you have to choose between saving or killing them.
yeah, and then just the like them saying that they see nothing or like it's just it's sad. I'm basically dooming this person.
And after killing their siblings, right, because they were hunting
Yeah.
them, like these people do not have great lives. They are not living their best lives. But yeah, that was a pretty sad one. Thoile was another sad quest because all he wanted, or she, I don't even know yet, wanted the love of Saint Trina, right? And in their attempts to obtain that love, they died. And so that's another one that's just incredibly sad. So the twists, you try to help, but you never get too far, and in the end, they all fight and kill each other, and it's just crazy the endings that they have. They pull you into these stories, and as much as you try to help Tarnished, it you don't help a lot of people on your way. You are not a hero by any means, and most of the time, you just get revenge for dead people.
Yep.
But I wanted to jump into boss battles. Obviously, one of the highlights of Elden Ring and From Software's formula is their epic boss fights. They were known for Melania, obviously, in the very first Elden Ring and the challenging components of that one. But I wanted to ask you, how did the boss fights in Shadow of the Erdtree stack up? Which boss gave you the most trouble? And which one was the most satisfying to defeat? So for you, I don't know if all of those will be the same, but for me, they're all the same.
Yeah, I mean, Radon was easily the hardest one that I fought. I don't know if I would say that was the most I was most satisfied when beating it because I felt like I kind of cheated out of it based on my build that I ran to beat it. Um, what was the most satisfied I felt?
Well, the other ones of note would have been the Rosebud Monster, right, with the Scarlet
Yeah,
Rot. That was difficult. Mesmer
Mesmer.
was
I think it would be
another tough one.
No, I lied. I can't decide if Rolana or Mesmer because both of those I felt so satisfied after defeating both of them.
That's true. Renala was a big shout out because before you get to Renala, you can't get all the Skidoo trees, right? And I hate saying that word.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
so yeah, go.
you can bypass it. Like I found out after I beat her because I think you mentioned it, but I've oof, without doing it, it,
But
it was
even
tough.
still, you can't go get them all, right? You're still locked out of
Yeah.
certain ones. So I think you could only get to like level 12 or something before the Ronaldo fight. And it's a humbling experience for a lot of people, even if you haven't gone and get those and you're only at level 8. And it is challenging. It is difficult. And she has huge sweeping AoE attacks, right? With that triple moon. explosion that she does in her final phase, and the swords. I mean, they're epic and they're memorable.
Oh, I didn't say, but I did beat her before they nerfed like or they buffed the Skidoo fragments. So I guess maybe that was also a factor. Um,
Yes, the
but I believe
controversial
she's
buff.
yeah, she's optional though. I didn't realize this, but she's optional. You actually can get like all the Skidoo fragments before fighting her if you wanted to.
Well, those are some obviously epic fights in the game, but I wanted to say, did you hear that they put a chair in the Rennala boss room fight? You must have read
Yeah, I
that.
did hear about it. I did actually. Yeah,
And
I
so
think
do
that's
you
cool.
think they wanted to create the lore of Mesmer and Rennala?
Maybe that's an interesting theory. I don't know. I think Mesmer was more focused on probably Marika, because Marika was one that gave Mesmer the power, right?
So I guess only time will tell. I'm sure there'll be some
Yeah.
definitive people in the community saying one way and some saying another way. But it's just crazy. They add a chair in a boss room and the community goes abuzz. Well, I wanted to ask you one more follow-up to the boss situation.
Yeah.
Was there a mechanic or a design that stood out to you as being innovative or memorable?
Boss design.
Because after
I feel
playing
like
Dark Souls 3, I will say the innovation of Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree lost some flair to me. So it's gotta like stand up and evolve, right, from what they've done before.
if I were to think boss design, um,
Well, here, I'll give you what I thought was a very cool one. Remember the putrid beast? I
yeah, the
believe
future
with
knight,
like was
the
that the
horse.
creature that had that was horses? What was the creature that had the hand on the one side and the sort of attack on the front? Because I felt like that
Oh,
boss design was created specifically to make you fight a different way. You could no longer just go up and hit and slash and try to block. Like it was really hitting you from every single angle, and the sheer design was horrifying at the same time.
yeah, actually, that boss design does kind of it like to me is very interesting. The big hand, the Manus Meteor hand boss, the because it has the fingers on the side of it on the side, so you got to be careful attacking from even the sides. You got the finger in the front, and you just have to be really careful, no matter kind of where you are on that boss fight.
Yeah, it can be devastating. Um and for me obviously I will have to say Radon was definitely the one that gave me the most challenge. And once I completed it, it was the most satisfying. But I will say a close second will be Renola because I struggled with Renola for a little bit until I was able to really get a good run in. Although I was stubborn and I was using kung fu for a lot of it. But I will say, both of those fights I thought were epic. Radon obviously evolved what it meant to fight an Elden Ring boss. I thought his multiple slashes, the way they displayed his lightning fast movements. I mean, I can't think of something in Dark Souls 3 that did something to that level of just pure action blockbuster, large, huge boss swinging and slashing. That massive AoE that he does right at the end to really just F you to anyone who survived that long. Oh my gosh, just absolutely mind blowing. The whole experience, front to end, except for the fact that they blatantly ripped off a mechanic in Dark Souls 3. I don't get it.
Uh,
I mean, I just
I
wish
I feel
I
like
don't know.
his mechanic. I mean, the
Not
idea
mechanic.
of yeah, it's not
Yeah,
really like a mechanic. It's just
theatrical.
it's
Yeah.
just a visual.
Yes.
Is the uh uh with Mikola on top of, or like hugging Radon basically. Um,
Right.
like mechanic wise, I do have to say like Radon is like above and like beyond like a lot of bosses just because of the wide variety of like move set that he does. Plus, like moving on to that second phase where then like all his attacks have like an AoE kind of aspect to it when he's imbued with light, and it's super difficult to dodge. He's got like the ability where he has like images of himself that are just slashing multiple times, and uh, the mechanic wise, that definitely is one of the, like I would say one of the best like design bosses that I've seen, like for difficulty.
Not to mention he kisses you, or she
Yeah,
kisses you to death.
I do I do really like that aspect of it. The whole your heart taken over by Nicola.
it
I
it
think that's a
slows
neat.
down the fight, and it brings this element of, like, I don't know, chills and horrifying power that this lady holds, right? I don't know how better to describe it, but it was definitely an aspect I wasn't expecting when I first got kissed to death. But it was something they built into it, and that was completely new. I mean, that's not a part of the Dark Souls series, at least that I've seen.
Um, I mean, I don't know if there's like quite a debuff that does exactly that I can remember. Um, I don't know. I would probably put it akin to something that's like a death curse. Just instead of like a meter, it's just if you get hit twice, you die from it.
And apparently there was an item that gets rid of the kiss, which I saw later on. And so there
Yeah,
goes my second point. Always pay attention to all these consumables and things that they're giving you. Because I feel like I bullheaded a lot of it and ignored a lot of the mechanics. But definitely be sure to check out consumables and things like that.
I saw people mention that they wished Moog's shackles worked on the boss because it's technically Moog's body. And I kind of wish that
What?
that it did something.
Well, break that down. Are you saying Radon is in Moog's body?
Oh yeah, to bring back Radon, they used Moog's body as a sacrifice, and so
When
it's
did that
technically
happen?
Radon in Moog's body. It's if you follow the Ansbach quest line, he
But
tells
then
you.
But didn't you kill Moog and his brother
Yeah,
before getting in there?
when you killed Moog, that was all part of Mikola's plan. Mikola wanted you to kill Moog because then they could use the body in the ritual to bring back Radon.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting concept. Yeah, if Moog Shackle worked, that would have been cool to see. And definitely an element of just intertwined lore. Yeah, it's a good shout. I didn't even know that was what was happening. It's funny the stuff they
Yeah.
just hide in small conversations and small dialogue.
Because if you summoned, because I used the summons at first when I was fighting him. When you summon Ansbach for the fight, he mentions defiling Moog's body. Let me see if I can pull up the exact quote. Um, uh, ba, ba, ba. Yeah, here it goes. When you give him the secret right skull, he's as if using Lord Moog to gain entrance to Land of Shadow were not enough. He plans to use his corpse as the vessel of his king consort. He has forsaken Lord Moog's soul. His desire he desires his empty shell. Um, so yeah,
Oh,
they're
wow.
using his body as like a shell.
that's so cryptic in one line, and they're like, "Yep, that's the main boss's backstory." Like, what? It's crazy how
um,
they hide that stuff. But let's talk about progression and gameplay. So moving this review along, how did the Shadow of the Erdtree handle leveling up and skill progression with the Skidoo trees? Did you feel like that was a fair way to introduce scaling and difficulty into a realm where players would obviously be maxed out on their levels? Um, yeah, how did you feel about the Skidoo trees in general?
I thought it was good. I felt like bosses still provided an adequate challenge throughout as I upgraded. I did not feel that I was ever too strong from the skidoos, or sometimes I'd even feel too weak for bosses, at least especially in the beginning. Um, but it's I thought it did a good job for that.
All right. Well, that is cool. I definitely think the Skidoo trees were necessary. You had to introduce some sort of element, but what I do wish is that Skidoo trees were kind of locked behind certain areas. Like I thought, it wasn't too great for me to just go get Skidoo trees and sort of run and sort of bypass certain bosses. I wish they were sort of connected to bosses. I think that would have been cool. They were connected to some of like the hippos and stuff, but I really feel like some of these bosses, like pivotal ones, I should have gotten like 3 skidoo fragments or like multiple skidoo fragments. I just didn't. I understand why earning skidoo trees wasn't a skill check requirement; it was an exploration requirement. But I would have liked to see the latter. Um, but I get it; they need to
I
make it accessible.
I understood it just because in the base game, I'm the type of player that, like, after my first playthrough, I know where the fragments are, or where all the little upgrade materials are now, so I can bypass that whole first bit, to go grab those items. And similarly with the skidoo fragments, I can bypass and grab those fragments now that I know where to go to do that.
Yeah, now that you know, but I get it. I just wish it was more of a skill check than, just go out and find it. That would be my one thing on it, but you pull in one direction and it gives in another. Um but yes, did you feel that the new weapons and armor, did you want to gravitate towards them? Did they provide a greater edge? Is there any new weapon or armor set that you can point out as being pivotal in the new DLC? Because they didn't give us any
Um,
runes. No new runes to speak of.
yeah. So for me in particular, I really liked the armor. Like almost immediately started using the new armor that I got. And as for weapons, yeah, I started gravitating. Once I figured I could get a black blade, I was like, heck yeah, I'm gonna grab that. And and I did. It was awesome. Um, but I had a great time with the weapons and the things. Other ones that would probably stand out is the, what are they called? The perfume bottles. Those were very interesting, and I used those for the first time, and I like those.
Yeah, we know what you did with the perfume bottles. I would say one of my favorite armor sets that definitely evolved the game for me and that I will be keeping on is the Rak. I'm gonna say this wrong. Raksh Rakasa. I can't even say
Sasha.
it. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that increased your damage. However, it lowers your defenses. I think the trade-off is worth it. Just don't get hit. And there was also the pointy red cap that acted like one of the talismans and it increased your health, stamina, and so I thought that was pretty cool one to keep on. That's
Yeah.
actually the build that I used for the boss fight. And as for the weapons, a lot of brand new Ashes of War. You had that gravity twisty explosion thing that I used for the final boss fight, which is absolutely broken. The fact I was able to put that on a great sword is just stupid. But it just lets you really play with the weapons and evolve like a really cool play style. I wanted to use nothing but the new weapons, the kung fu aspects. I thought that was really cool. You had the great katanas, now two-handed huge katanas, which was new elements, which those were so much fun. A lot of really cool weapons that I no longer the cool thing about the DLC is all of my old weapons and armor feels like not as good anymore. The cool thing is everything in this DLC feels like an evolution from the main game, and that's why I wanted to gravitate towards it. But that is my fandom on the weapons and the armor. Let's get into the integration with the main game. How well did Shadow of the Erdtree fit into the main game? Did it feel like a natural extension or did it stand out as a complete separate entity? And I will give this question to you. And thanks, Purple Haze, for the comment. You are hilarious as well as funny. So thanks for that one.
Um, I think yes and no. I think it felt like an extension, but I also felt like it evolved a bit, like especially with the new like weapon types, armor, and stuff like that. It definitely felt like it could have been a separate game, but at the same time, it directly tied into that first game in terms of like lore and um, different things. Like because you defeating the particular Moog ties in directly with the final boss of this. Um, it kind of makes sense to be a part of Elden Ring.
And for me, I felt like there was lore that connected the two stories that can't be ignored. But honestly, it felt like Elden Ring 2. It felt like it could have been a completely different game. You had lore set up, you had NPCs all completely devoid of the main story and just all in a separate group together. Yeah, I definitely feel like this and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a beating Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree was just about as much time as Dark Souls 3 with the DLC.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was that large, it really just felt like Elden Ring 2 to me. It could have been completely devoid in my mind.
I agree wholeheartedly. Like a lot of their other games were like you can beat within like 26 hours. So to me, I mean, yeah, it has less bosses, but I feel like it has a wide variety of areas, things that it potentially could have been its own game. Yeah.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Maker, but how many bosses does it take to beat the Elden Ring main game? Isn't it only a
It's only
handful?
like three
Four?
or four. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like four
It's the
bosses.
same thing with this DLC, right? Didn't you say it was only two or three?
Uh, wait, oh, with Elden Ring, the base game?
With base
Oof.
game was only four bosses, right? You speedrun it.
No, no, oh no, no, it's more than that. It's
Oh, it's more than that. Okay.
yeah. So I'm thinking like originally with like glitches, yes, you can like skip and move straight to I think you still have to beat like 3 with glitches, but like without glitches, you're looking at uh 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, at least like 9 bosses,
Oh, okay.
basically.
So it's a major difference. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's about half. So that is a significant one, but it's just crazy, I think, in my mind, how they make a lot of this stuff optional. I mean, the whole Abyssal Forest you never have to enter in. The whole Finger
Oh
Rune, the
yeah.
whole Bayo quest you never have to enter into. It's just crazy. But where are we? Integration with the main game. We both feel like it could be a completely separate entity itself, but let's talk about everyone's favorite subject is performance and technical aspects. I want to state that I played on PlayStation 5, while Maker, I believe you played the majority of your playthrough on PC, if I'm correct, or did you
Yep.
do it on Xbox?
I played on PC.
PC. How did you find the performance? You were on there day one. So that is the most raw a game
Um,
could possibly be.
I mean, it still had the micro stutters that I experienced when I first played it, which is not good, but I mean, I'm okay. Like I guess I kind of gotten used to it and understand that FromSoft do not make the best PC focused games. Um, at least if you've ever played the original Dark Souls or Dark Souls 3, the PC versions did not launch great. So I guess I knew what I was getting into.
Well, there you go. um, but that being said, do you think that their speedy updates corrected all of those like micro stutters pretty quickly? Do you still feel that when you were doing your last play, or do you feel like it had been patched in over the 1, 2 days?
I think performance was around the same. It didn't affect it, or it didn't change too much in between.
Well, there you go. For myself, I would say the performance was, I mean, absolutely stunning. I don't fall through the maps like certain Helldiver games. I didn't have situations where I felt like the boss had cheated me because of frame drops or, movements that weren't being captured or animations not going through. I always felt like it was smooth playthrough experience from beginning to end. I can't recall of a single crash, a single aspect where I thought it was being frame droppy. I honestly had a pretty solid playthrough throughout my entire experience. I turn on ray tracing and hit quality mode, so I
Yeah.
probably don't hold 60 on my PlayStation. I know I don't hold 60 on my PlayStation 5, but it does its best to hold 30, and I think it does well for that. Not until we get PS Pro, am I right? PS5 Pro. But let's
Yeah.
jump into secrets and discoveries. Now, this may be because I haven't obviously found all the secrets, but to me, the Shadow of the Erdtree had a lot less invisible walls, secret dungeons, secret paths, secret bosses. Nothing like Dark Eater Madir, unless no one's found it yet. Just in my mind, I think this game could have done with like a very big secret. Um, some sort of hidden puzzle that you have to solve. But to me, it felt very there. Like nothing was too secret to me. And Elden Ring is typically known for that. How did you feel about the feeling of discovery and the secrets that Elden Ring had put in front of you?
I thought it was a fairly good amount of discovery, but that's mostly because I absolutely loved the Abyssal Woods location. Like how you have to first, like it is through kind of a hidden wall where you go through the Shadow Keep, and then um, what's it called? There's like the little grave that you, not grave, but tombstone that you kind of lay in, and then it transports you down underneath. and then from there you have to keep going until you find a dungeon, and then at the very end of the dungeon there's a boss that leads you into the abyssal woods, and I thought that was really cool.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's how it did work out. So, yeah, that is pretty goddamn hidden. Not to mention, you don't have to do any of that to complete the main game.
Yeah,
You don't even have to get to the end of the Abyssal Woods where that crazy madman frenzy boss is. So, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, you're right. That is a pretty epic secret, that whole Abyssal Woods.
yeah. I
The
I did
what
I kind of wound upon it on my own and was like, this is so cool. Like that experience that I had where like I found this. Like this is this is really neat. Like I got to the end of it and I was like, there's a doorway behind that boss. Does it keep going? Do I keep going out that way and like find another area? And that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, and that boss fight itself was just pretty crazy, to be honest. One of the most
Yeah.
memorable ones. They show it on the previews and then they lock it away in like the most secret spot ever. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are crazy.
Hey,
Um,
Millennia's like that too. You know, you have to do like a bunch of like secret. You have to get the secret medallions. You got to do the little puzzle by the Ordina liturgical town, and then transport over to the Halig Tree just to get to her area.
yep,
So yeah,
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
she's
she
she's
is the
and she's on
secret.
the
And
cover.
yeah, she's on the cover. Yeah, that's true. I mean, she is one of the most epic ones. I would even say that she is more difficult than Radon. But then again, maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it took me longer to
Maybe when I
beat
first bought her.
Melania than it did to beat Radon. But it's hard to tell. They're both equally difficult, and that's why they had a war against each other. Elden Ring lore there. But let's talk about the difficulty. Difficulty is a hallmark of a Souls series. How challenging was Shadow of the Erdtree compared to the main game, and did it push you to your limits? Now, Maker, I will say from the outside, it looked like it pushed you to your limits because you resorted to the perfume bottle.
It kind of did. I mean, it pushed me to like the Sekiro level of limits where I was like, I will change my build just to beat this final boss.
Oh yeah, I did that too.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I had to look up what some busted builds were just to try and see if that would help me beat it.
And
And
that's what I did.
yeah,
I
that
found a busted build. It's very similar to
yeah,
yours, I will say. My build was
yeah.
busted.
But hey, I mean, to be fair, we were also putting that difficulty on ourselves. I probably could have had a lot easier time if I did use my like mimic tier or another summon to help me fight it.
Yeah.
I'd heard like Black Knife Tish is really good on the final boss, but I didn't want to resort to that, and so you know I had to rise up to that challenge.
And that's what the challenge was. I mean, we put a challenge on ourselves not to bring in summons, and to sort of bring that be it Sekiro like aspect to the game where you are one on one in the boss, and having to manage all the aggro, having to manage what's going on. So I absolutely think it was a great challenge and a lot of fun
Mhm.
doing so. And it brought the difficulty up to that From Software standard to me. Although I felt like, again, I was a little bit broken on my Colossal builds because I walked through Mesmer. Oh my gosh, it was just a destruction fest with my Colossal weapon. That Rosebud boss, also very difficult, very cool. But again, it was Renala and it was Radon that really just brought a skill check to a game that I have not seen in a little while. So happy to see that. Well, Stellar Blade did bring a good skill check in. But I will say that Elden Ring definitely kept me locked into a boss for several hours. So they brought the difficulty to Shadow of the Erdtree. One question I wanted to add on here. Radon, Orphan of Kos, or Demon of Hatred? Or wait,
Ooh,
do you think Ishin Sword Saint is more difficult than Demon of Hatred?
I think about the same. I spent probably around the same amount of time on both.
Okay,
But
so
I think the thing was I was exhausted by the time I got to Ishin after Demon of Hatred. That like after 2 hours of fighting Ishin, I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to like look up what are good strategies on this, and then I tried that and I eventually beat it.
okay, so I would say Demon of Hatred, Orphan of Kos, or Radon Consort.
Uh, I'd say Rodon has a slight edge, just a slight one.
And over Melania?
Yeah, I
Radon
would say
or
even over
Melania?
Melania.
Oh wow.
Because
Well, there you
to
have it.
me, Melania is like easily staggerable. Radon is not.
Right, that's true. Um, I wonder if the souls charts have changed for most difficult boss because I feel like Orphan of Kos, Melania, Demon of Hatred, they were around the top three of every single one of those boss charts. So I'd be curious to see if Radon had changed things. And a lot of people actually have read articles say Renala is more difficult than Radon, just mechanic
Uh,
wise, and I'm like,
um,
I don't
I
know.
read an
I don't
article
think
that
so.
like on subsequent difficulties that they didn't find Radon as difficult, and I kind of can understand that because to me, I realized that Radon, like you spend so much time on him that you learn his move set, and that's why like they were saying Radon wasn't as difficult as Rolana on their second playthrough because they had fought Radon that many times that they kind of got it on each subsequent playthrough.
Right, because you just know the move set so well. You know to dodge right when they're doing that gravity spin. You know
Yep.
he's gonna do 7 swings before he leaves open. You know to dodge in when he does the bunny hop. Like all of that's now ingrained in your mind.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. That is funny. All right. Well, I wanted to ask you, is it worth the $40?
Yes. Hands down.
Hands
Easily.
down. No hesitation. And I would absolutely say it's worth the 53 Canadian dollars. Um it feels like Elden Ring 2 if you're on the fence. This is a massive expansion that rivals a lot of games coming out today that boast full-length experiences. If you haven't jumped on the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, I 100% wholeheartedly recommend. For me, it is right now sitting as game of the year. And yes, it is enough to be called its own independent game, in my opinion, because it stands alone and it has its own systems, it has its own bosses. It's a full length experience. And for me, it's Elden Ring 2. And I'm happy that they were able to release it only 2 years later. Great experience, and I think it should win Game of the Year as of right now. So, Maker, I'll ask you the question of the title of this review, and that is: should Shadow of the Erdtree win the Game of the Year?
Um, I think if we counted DLC, like, then yes, I think it should. I mean, it's technically my favorite thing that I paid for and played this year, for sure. Um, like, I will say it doesn't come without faults. Like, I still think that like the reward systems aren't the best in Erdtree because you get a lot of smithing stones that you've gotten already, and which makes sense because you're getting new weapons, you're gonna need to upgrade them, etc., and stuff like that. But me, who's beat the game and has all the items to like buy it if I really needed the smithing stones, I didn't really need extras. um, but but if I compare it to my favorite game I've played this year, which is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, towards the end, I started getting kind of tired of playing the game. Whereas to me, with beating Shadow of the Erdtree, I immediately kind of went back. I mean, I played it with a friend right after, um, and got us all the way to Radon, and experiencing a new build. Tried it out as like a dragon. Like, just there's so much that you can do with the DLC that it makes it more like I tried a kung fu build. It makes it that extra playability that much easier. And so that's
Yeah.
why I enjoyed that experience more than the other game that is my favorite currently.
Replayability is definitely a massive aspect of Elden Ring. Like I see myself going into New Game Plus already yesterday. It's a game that gets me to play it all over again is definitely something that's incredibly intriguing. And the fact that they even did a something called a DLC plus, which I don't know what that entails, but it's cool to see that them even upgrading the difficulty of the DLC independently, almost like it's its own separate game that deserves Game of the Year. But that is a different opinion. But I wanted to wrap things up on how you would rate Shadow of the Erdtree overall. Is it a must play for Elden Ring fans, or does it fall short of expectations? Let me know what your rating is. If you want to give it a number rating out of 10, 100, and your reasoning behind it, now is the time.
Yeah, I would give it a 9.5, and that's mostly due to technical issues and just the reward system maybe not being the best for like a. I think you mentioned this before. Like the forges feel like they're missing like a boss. I think if you had added like
Agreed.
a small little boss at the end, that would kind of piece it together really nicely. Everything else, I just have no complaints. I absolutely highly recommend it. If you loved Elden Ring, you'll love the Elden Ring DLC, and recommend picking it up.
And am I going to get a number score out of you?
Oh, 9.5.
9.5. Wow. Oh, it's like, what could they have possibly done to give you that extra point 0.5? Made the forges more unique, bring a little boss into it, maybe make the reward system a little bit better. You get new items. But yeah, I can see where there's some downfall. Um, but for me, I will have to say, definitely one of the pinnacle experiences of the year. It was didn't fall short of expectations. There was a lot of hype from it, and it drew me in playing every single day. After the launch, I was there front row and center, the morning of it dropping. I just loved it. Loved more Elden Ring. Makes me want to play more of it. Replayability is up there. uh, I hate always giving 10 out of 10s, but From Software, you did it again. You gave me one of the highest highs of the year in defeating the final boss on stream. It was just an all-around epic experience from front to end. Yes, there was some design flaws I may have not agreed with on From Software, but I mean, as a complete package, they hit it out of the park. Except for that final AoE attack. Like, what the hell is that? Come on, you're gonna blow up the entire screen with your faith blast or whatever that was. But absolutely great experience. Chef's kiss for Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. And there you have it. My excitement on screen right above as I completed the game. That's the kind of highs it gives you, and that's why I keep coming back to this genre. Absolutely amazing. So, there you have it, folks. A deep dive into the shadowy depths of the Shadow of the Erdtree. A massive thanks to the maker of Chaos for joining us today and sharing his insights. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Share it out there. And with that, fellow Tarnished, good luck out there. And until the next time, stay safe in the lands between and keep your Estus flasks handy. That's right. That's right. I said that. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. And until the next time, take care.